So discretionary effort. How is it that you've come to work in whatever organization that you work in? Did you, did someone do you a favor? Did you just show up and they did you a favor and say, hey, come on in to this organization? Chances are probably not. And unless you're an entrepreneur and, you make things happen, that's super. But most of us have a contract that we either signed or that we've committed to, that I will do X amount of work for an X amount of pay, and I will do certain things, and then there are definitely things that are out of my frame of reference that I won't be responsible for. So we have what we call a job description, and typically individuals, and Dr. William Glasser talked about this a lot in his choice theory. And basically, I'll sum up his choice theory by saying this: that people do what they want, when they want, and only when they want to do it. That's basically the crux of his choice theory. And so when we sign those contracts, or when we come into a relationship with an employer, we have told that employer that I will do the job. I will do what's asked of me. I will make the number of widgets. I will think in a certain way. I'll use your processes, all sorts of things. These are the things that we agree to in contract with our employer. So, given that, most of us try to live up to those contracts. We try to do what's asked of us, and we try to do the best we can to comply with those contracts. And so how does this relate to discretionary effort? Discretionary effort is not saying that I won't comply with the contract. I will comply with the contract. But the level at which I choose to give to that contract is up to me. I can keep my job doing 70% of what I'm supposed to do. So I can perform at 70%, and that will be adequate to fulfill my contract. But what does my employer want from me? How do I get raises? How do other people see me as being valuable in the organization? Is it giving 70%? Do you know people in your organization that give 70%? What are the things that people think about them? Typically not real positive, or they don't typically fall into the category of the go-to person, if you know what I'm saying, right? So how do we operate when we're in 70%? We do as little as possible to fulfill our contract. And so discretionary effort says that I can do between 70% and 100% to fulfill my contract. But that's up to me. And what is that discretionary effort based on? It's based on my attitude. Am I accomplishing my goals? And some of my goals are directly related to the organization, and some of my goals are directly related to my relationships with people within the organization. And so when I'm able to accomplish my goal, when I have the right tools, I have the right atmosphere, I have the right support, I'm able and I desire to fulfill my contract at 100%. However, when I don't have the right resources and the environment that I have around me is poor, be it a physical environment or be it an attitudinal environment, if I'm being harassed, if I'm being belittled, what kind of percentage do you think I'm going to give to my organization? I'm going to do as little as possible. Now, this is what's really interesting. As a high school teacher, when my students were upset with me, they would punish me by not doing their homework. Yes, their punishment for the teacher was not doing their homework. Now, the interesting thing is that didn't work. They weren't punishing me. But they thought that through displaying those negative attitudes that they would actually get their goal, that my behavior would change. When in fact, what would happen is that they would be the negative recipients of the choices and the behaviors that they exhibited. And so a lot of times, our discretionary effort is stuff based on our attitude that doesn't necessarily get us what we want. However, I can't, as a manager, as a supervisor, as a teacher, as a coach, I can't make my students do anything. They ultimately do what they want to do. And so one of the things that I've learned in terms of discretionary effort is that first I must understand what people's goals are. So I do a little investigative process. I give them assessments. I want to find out where their strengths are, how we build on those strengths, and what kinds of tools do I need to give them so that they can A, use their strengths, and B, so that they can accomplish their ultimate goals. So that's extremely important as a manager and supervisor and teacher, to make sure that I know what those goals are, so I can help people achieve their goals, so that they can have a good attitude and increase their discretionary effort. The other part is that it's important to realize that let me use this parable. How does one catch fish? You typically take a rod and a reel, and you have a hook, and you put something on the hook, and you cast that hook into the water, and at some point you hope that a fish bites it. All right. So if I'm going fishing and I just happen to have a Doritos bag, and I put a Doritos bag on the hook, and I cast that into the lake, will I be catching fish? So will fish be caught? Maybe if they swim into the bag or something like that. But more than likely, that's probably not going to catch fish. And as a matter of fact, I will not see myself ever on the Bass Pro Show on Saturday afternoon if I keep using Doritos bags as bait. And why is it that Doritos bags may not be necessarily good bait for me to use in trying to catch fish? Because fish aren't drawn to Doritos bags. Now, if I had, depending on the fish, I could have a synthetic lure, or I could get a night crawler, or I can get some dough and cast that into the water. And what will happen with the fish? The fish will be drawn to that thing. And so ultimately, I have to convince the fish that they want to be caught. I mean, I can't just yell into the water, "Fish, get in my boat!" No. I have to cast out a net, or I have to send out a bait that ultimately becomes a contract between the fish and I, and the fish says, "I want to be caught because I want that thing that you have." And so once I have that fish on the hook, then I have that fish caught. And so when we talk about discretionary effort, not only do we need to understand individuals' goals, we need to understand what their needs, what their strengths are, how we can help them use those strengths, but we also have to have an atmosphere where they want to contribute to what we're doing. And so when we talk about racism, a lot of times we talk about that emotional stuff, but what I want to talk about is its impact on one's discretionary effort. If I'm in an environment where sexism is rampant, am I a person that wants to give 100%? Probably not. If I'm an individual where there is homophobia or religious bias or sexual harassment or racism or sizeism, if you will, if I'm in an environment where those things are happening, am I prepared to give my organization my personal best? Probably not. And so when we talk about discretionary effort, the effort on the individual is something that we can't determine. But if we give that fish, in a sense, the right materials, the right resources, the right environment, the right rewards, both intrinsically and extrinsically, we will start to create an environment where we can expect to get 100% because people will want to give 100%. And am I able to give 100%? 100% of the time, I would probably venture to say no. But on average, I would prefer that my employees strive to give me 100%, have an environment that fosters that concept that I can give 100% and that it's worth it to give 100% than I would for them just to complete or comply with their contract. discretionary effort impacts how we and why we decide to be motivated in our workplaces. I'm Andre Koen. I'll see you next chapter.